Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński and this is Military Mind. Armed conflicts, defense and security, land, sea and air. We've got you covered. According to the Ukrainian Air Force, overnight on the 6th of August, Russian forces attacked Ukraine with 4 missiles and more than 100 attack drones of various types. Ukrainian air defenses reported confirmed hits by 1 missile and a series of attack drones at multiple locations across the country. In the Kharkiv region, 3 people were killed in a Russian strike on one of the city's residential districts. Another attack hit the railway station in Lozowa, killing 2 people and wounding 8 others. Russian forces also dropped 12 guided aerial bombs on civilian infrastructure in Sumy, hitting and wounding 2 people. Apartment buildings, non-residential structures and infrastructure facilities were damaged, with hundreds of windows shattered. In Kherson, 6 people were wounded after a Russian FPV drone struck a passenger bus. In response, Ukrainian drones targeted Russia's oil and industrial facilities. In the Tver region, Russian authorities said that falling drone debris caused minor damage to the facade of a Wildberries logistics center. In the Yaroslavl region, monitoring channels reported a fire at an oil refinery following a Ukrainian drone attack. The refinery is among Russia's 5 largest, with a processing capacity of approximately 15 million tons of crude oil per year. It produces gasoline, diesel fuel, aviation kerosene, and jet fuel. Ukraine's general staff says the facility is of critical importance to the logistics of the Russian military. Also, on the 5th of August, the Central Research Institute of Machine Building, the main research institute of Roscosmos, located in Korolyov near Moscow, caught fire after being hit by a drone. Now, on the front lines, Russian sources claim to have captured the village of Zarnitsia, west of Ternuvate. However, according to Deep State, the settlement remains under Ukrainian control and is located more than 8 kilometers from the nearest grey zone. Analysts say that a recent episode involving the infiltration of a Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group was made possible by weaknesses in Ukrainian field fortifications in that sector. Over the past week, Russian forces captured 21 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, compared with 10 square kilometers the week before. According to summaries published by Ukraine's General Staff, the total number of combat engagements along the front line increased by 2 compared to the previous week. A revealing video has surfaced online that exposes the full extent of the absurdity, hypocrisy and twisted morality of the Russian occupiers. A Russian soldier found himself in the frontline town of Marinka in the Donetsk region and was moved to tears because, in his own words, this was where he spent his childhood. However, behind his tears of nostalgia, the Russian chose to ignore the most important fact. The town where he grew up has been turned into a scorched wasteland of nothing but ruins and ash, and it was done by the very same army in whose ranks he now participates, with a weapon in his hands, on a mission to spread destruction across the land he knows so well.
Город Маринка, где 54 года прожила моя семья, бабушка, дед, царство небесное, Бондарь. Сейчас, нет.
Растрогался Лех.
Если это чуть тоже внимание обратите.
Зацепило за живое. За струнки души. Здесь прошло его детство. Вот в этой школе.
Now look, maybe it's never too late for reflection, but this is really like a last-minute kind of thing. I mean, for this man to see the results of this war firsthand and maybe finally start thinking, what have I done? Could be a life-changing moment, maybe, we don't know. If there were many more soldiers like that, something could change, perhaps. But statistically, this is still a very minor incident. Unfortunately, most Russian troops never realized what they've done. Furthermore, they are participating in that willingly, and they are pressing onwards with the destruction of the Ukrainian land that they theoretically were supposed to protect. You know, the narratives about Russian speakers. Many of those Russian speakers have died due to the Russian invasion. So that pretty much makes it impossible for the Kremlin to maintain this narrative, and yet they still do, somehow. And unfortunately, no such reflection among those in power in Moscow itself. They still believe that this war makes sense and that more and more casualties will deliver the results that they want. Anyway, we're moving on to our next story. And unique aerial footage captured by a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone has surfaced online, showing the current state of the frontline town of Lyman. The city, which has endured occupation, battles for liberation, and the daily hell of enemy shelling, looks from a bird's-eye view like a majestic symbol of the courage and resilience of its Ukrainian defenders. Despite constant attacks with guided bombs and rocket artillery, as well as the Russian invaders' relentless attempts to break through the Lyman front, the city holds its ground and remains steadfastly under the blue and the yellow flag. Of course, from above, it just looks apocalyptic, but it's also an image of multiple tragedies. Every single house, every single apartment block that was reduced to rubble represents a personal tragedy of the people who lived there. And now, many of us watching this, of course, many will be furious about the fact that Russia keeps doing that, a member of the UN Security Council attacking a sovereign nation and not being punished in any meaningful way. Of course, there are sanctions, naturally, but some people might be thinking, well, is that enough? Hopefully, some of the people watching this could be members of governments or ruling elites in the West. Because if a normal person looks at the situation and thinks, I don't really have the power to stop this, well, those that actually lead, the governments of countries allied with Ukraine, they have that power. They could potentially do more, providing weapons, providing interceptors to stop the massacres and the devastation. And naturally, this is just one of the many examples, but perhaps this one could tip the scale for someone. And that is why we're watching, we're showing this and basically making it clear that this is something that still can be stopped. And that's all for now on this episode of Military Mind. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news, updates and commentary.